Hello dear students. In last class, we studied about the introduction of the chapter respiration in plants, where we studied about the glycolytic pathway followed by the anaerobic respiration, that is lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. And we studied that both these fermentation is only a partial breakdown of the glucose. Today, we will be studying about third pathway of the respiration, that is aerobic respiration. The aerobic respiration is a complete oxidation of glucose and as a result, more amount of energy is extracted. It is common in higher organisms and takes place within mitochondria and it requires oxygen and releases carbon dioxide and water with large amount of energy. So this aerobic respiration, the pyruvic acid which is produced in the glycolytic pathway enters into the mitochondria and here two processes are taking place. Let's study the details of this process. What type of cycle it is undergoing. Let's see it with the help of slide. Now let's study the details of the aerobic respiration. The pyruvic acid which is produced in the process of glycolysis enters into mitochondria. Two main events of the process of aerobic respiration are: number one, complete oxidation of pyruvate by the stepwise removal of all the hydrogen atoms, leaving 3 molecules of carbon dioxide, and all this process takes place in the matrix of mitochondria. And this takes place by a cycle called as Krebs cycle or TCA cycle, the details of which we will study later on. And then second process which is followed by this process is the passing on the electrons removed as the part of hydrogen atoms to molecular oxygen with simultaneous synthesis of ATP, and that takes place in the inner membrane of mitochondria. So in today's lecture, we will be dealing with the first part. We will be studying the details of Krebs cycle, whereas the electron transport system will study in the next lecture. So let's now study the details of this cycle, which is very important, called as Krebs cycle. Before entering the Krebs cycle, the pyruvate enters into the cytosol of mitochondrial matrix and undergoes oxidative decarboxylation. And the enzyme which controls this process is called pyruvic dehydrogenase. And one coenzyme A is used along with NAD. So you can see the equation which takes place here is pyruvic acid is reacting with coenzyme A and NAD. This takes place in presence of the enzyme pyruvate dehydrogenase. Magnesium ions are used. The product is acetyl coenzyme A, carbon dioxide NNADH. Now this acetyl coenzyme A which is produced here will enter the Krebs cycle. Now you can see here, this is the diagram of flow chart of Krebs cycle. The first step is condensation of acetyl group with oxaloacetate and water. The first stable product produced is citric acid in presence of the enzyme citrate synthetase. That's why this is also called as citric acid cycle. Now, this citric acid, which is 6-carbon compound, it undergoes isomerization of citrate to form isocitrate, and this is followed by decarboxylation, where there is removal of carbon dioxide in 2 steps, leading to the formation of alpha ketogluteric acid and then succinyl coenzyme A. After succinic acid is produced, then there is oxidation of succinyl coenzyme A to produce oxaloacetate. And during the conversion of succinyl coenzyme A to succinic acid, there is synthesis of one GTP molecule. In a coupled reaction, GTP is converted to GDP with simultaneous synthesis of ATP from ADP. So you can see during Krebs cycle, the production takes place in this form. Here pyruvic acid reacts with 4 NAD and 1 FAD to produce. Uh, Also there is utilization of 2H2O and ADP. This all takes place in mitochondrial matrix. It results in production of 3 carbon dioxide, 4 NADH plus 1 FAD plus ATP. So during the whole process of oxidation of glucose, this is the final product, which results in the formation of total 10 molecules of NADH2, 2 molecules of FADH2, 2 molecules of GTP, which are equivalent to 2 ATP. So let's see this whole Krebs cycle once again. So you can see here, this is a flow chart of the Krebs cycle. The pyruvate, which is produced by the process of glycolysis, converts into acetyl coenzyme A, which is 2 carbon. This acetyl coenzyme A enters the Krebs cycle, reacts with oxaloacetate, which is 4 carbon, to produce citrate, which is 6 carbon. Citrate converts into isocitrate, which is also 6 carbon. Then there is removal of 1 carbon dioxide, and which results in the formation of alpha ketoglutaric acid, which is 5 carbon compound. From alpha ketoglutaric acid, again 1 carbon dioxide is removed, which results in the formation of succinyl coenzyme A. So you can see in both the steps 1 NAD is getting reduced to NADH2. So again, there are in all here 2 NADH2 are produced here. Now this succinyl coenzyme A gets converted to succinate. In this process, 1 GDP gets converted to GTP, and now it is a 4 carbon compound succinate, which gets converted to fumarate. At this step, again 1 FAD gets reduced to FADH2. This fumarate is now converted to malate, which is also 4 carbon compound. And here also, when malate gets converted to oxaloacetate, 1 NAD is getting reduced to NADH2. So you can see in the glycolysis process, 2 molecules of pyruvate are produced. So whatever products are produced here, we have to multiply it by 2. This Krebs cycle flowchart is very important and you have to practice it. It is a very important question which may be asked for 5 marks. After the Krebs cycle is completed, the third step is called as the electron transport system. Here, here, this whatever the products are produced by the Krebs cycle, they undergo the process of oxidation, and this whole process of oxidation takes place in the inner mitochondrial matrix, that is cristae, the details of which we'll study in next class. After the complete oxidation of glucose, total 38 ATP molecules are produced. We'll study about the balance sheet, how this 38 ATP molecules are produced along with the electron details of electron transport chain in the next class. So we have studied how this aerobic respiration is responsible for producing large amount of energy because there is complete oxidation of the glucose. So now let us study and see how all these ATPs which are produced, they are calculated. That is respiratory balance sheet. Through respiratory balance sheet, we know that there is a net gain of 36 ATP. Net gain of 36 ATP in aerobic respiration, whereas it is only 2 ATP in case of anaerobic respiration. Okay, so with this, I think you have understood the process of the respiration, both anaerobic pathways and aerobic pathways very well. Thank you very much.